Fear. It is not real. It is a choice. A shadow that only exists when you believe in it. It has no substance, no true form, only the power you give it. I have seen men frozen by fear, paralyzed, unable to move, unable to act. I have also seen those who step forward despite fear and become unstoppable. The difference? One sees fear as a prison. The other sees it as an illusion. I was once tested by fear. In the back streets of Hong Kong, where fights were not scripted and survival was not guaranteed. In Hollywood, where doors were slammed in my face and people told me, "You do not belong here." I had a choice, to bow to fear or to break through it, and I chose to break through. You must understand this. Fear will never leave you. It will always be there, whispering, waiting, testing you. But the question is, will you be its prisoner, or will you master it? Today, I will teach you 7 lessons that will change how you see fear forever. If you listen, if you apply them, you will move through life with confidence, with power, with freedom. Because once you see fear for what it really is, it can no longer control you. 1. Fear is created by the mind. You are not born with fear. No child enters this world afraid of failing, afraid of speaking, or afraid of taking action. Fear is something you learn. It is the voice in your mind that whispers, "You are not strong enough. You are not ready. You will fail." But understand this, your mind is a powerful tool. It can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Fear is not real in the physical world. It only exists in your thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. Instead of resisting fear or fighting against it, observe it, acknowledge its presence, but do not let it take control. Fear is like a cloud passing in the sky. It may seem large and overwhelming, but if you let it drift, it will eventually disappear. The moment you recognize fear as nothing more than a thought, you take away its power over you. When I was a boy growing up in Hong Kong, I often found myself in street fights. These weren't friendly sparring matches. These were real fights, where hesitation could mean defeat. One day, I found myself face to face with an opponent much bigger and stronger than me. The moment I looked at him, doubt crept in. What if I lose? What if I get hurt? My mind was filling with fear before the fight had even begun. But then I stopped. I realized something. These were just thoughts, not reality. Nothing had happened yet. My body was capable, my training was solid, but my mind was trying to hold me back. So I shut down the thoughts. I did not give fear the time to grow. I moved, I struck, and the moment I acted, the fear vanished. That was the day I learned a valuable lesson. Fear exists only in the mind, but action destroys fear. From that day forward, I made a decision. I would not let fear stop me, and neither should you. 2, do not fight fear, flow with it. Most people believe they must fight fear, resist it, or push it away. But the more you resist fear, the stronger it becomes. Fighting fear is like struggling in quicksand. The harder you fight, the deeper you sink. Instead, you must learn to flow with it, to let it come and let it go, just like water flowing around a rock. Fear is a natural reaction. It is not something to eliminate, but something to understand. When you face fear, do not tense up. Do not try to block it or force it away. Instead, acknowledge it, breathe, and move forward anyway. Water does not resist obstacles. It moves around them, over them, or through them. Fear works the same way. It only controls you if you stand rigid against it. But when you remain fluid, adaptable, and calm, fear loses its grip. I remember a day when a man walked into my martial arts school in Oakland. He was a fighter, strong and aggressive, and he challenged me to a fight right there in front of my students. He wanted to prove that his style was superior to mine. I could see the intensity in his eyes. He was full of aggression, full of ego. Many fighters would have met his energy with the same intensity, stiffening up, preparing to clash force with force. But I knew better. I stayed calm. I did not resist. I let him move first, observing his energy, flowing with his attacks rather than trying to overpower him. Every time he struck, I redirected. Every time he rushed forward, I sidestepped. Within moments, his own force worked against him. He tired himself out, lost control, and I ended the fight effortlessly. That day, I proved a simple truth. Fighting fear directly only gives it strength. But when you flow with it, when you stay relaxed and adapt, fear becomes powerless. Like water, you must flow. Fear is not something to fight. It is something to move through. 3. Action destroys fear. Fear is like a shadow. It grows the longer you stand still. The more you think, the more fear tightens its grip. It whispers doubts, plants hesitation, and convinces you that you are not ready. But the moment you take action, fear disappears. You see, fear lives in the mind. It feeds on overthinking, on hesitation, on the endless cycle of what-ifs. But action cuts through it like a blade. The moment you move, fear has no place to exist. Just like stepping into cold water, the first moment may feel shocking, but once you are in, it becomes nothing. The key to overcoming fear is simple. Do not wait. Do not overthink. Move. Act. Even if you feel afraid, take the first step, because fear cannot survive in the presence of decisive action. When I first arrived in Hollywood, I faced many obstacles. Casting directors told me I was not the right fit. They said a Chinese man could never be the lead in an American movie. They tried to place limits on me. And for a moment, I felt the fear creeping in, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure. But I knew one thing. If I hesitated, if I waited for approval, I would never succeed. So I acted. I refused to accept small, stereotypical roles. Instead, I demonstrated my skills. I performed my martial arts in front of producers. I spoke with confidence, and I made them see what I already knew. I was meant to be here. If I had let fear control me, I would have faded into the background, waiting for someone else to decide my future. But I took action. I created my own opportunities. And that is how I changed Hollywood forever. Fear thrives in inaction, but the moment you step forward, it vanishes. Do not let fear stop you. Move, act, and watch how quickly fear disappears. 4. Train your mind like a warrior. A warrior does not wait for fear to strike. He prepares. He sharpens his mind just as he sharpens his body, knowing that in battle, hesitation is defeat. But the battlefield is not always physical. In life, the battle is often within, between courage and doubt, between action and hesitation. Fear is like an untrained opponent in the mind. It will attack you whenever you are weak, whenever you are unprepared. If you do not train your mind to handle fear, it will control you. But if you discipline your thoughts, if you condition your mind to stay strong under pressure, then fear loses its power. Training the mind is not something you do once. It is a daily practice. You must push yourself, challenge your limits, and do things that make you uncomfortable. Speak even when your voice shakes. Take action even when doubt creeps in. Each time you face a fear and push through, your mind becomes stronger, and a strong mind is unstoppable. I have trained my body all my life, but I knew that strength alone was not enough. A strong body with a weak mind is like a sword without a wielder. Useless. So I trained my mind just as fiercely. Every morning I wrote down affirmations. I am fearless. I am powerful. I will accomplish my goals. I did not just read these words, I believed them. I visualized myself overcoming every challenge, winning every fight, achieving every dream. I saw it in my mind before it became reality. One time during my training, I injured my back severely. The doctors told me I might never be able to do martial arts again. They told me to accept my limits, but I refused. My body was injured, but my mind was not. And I knew that if I let fear take hold, fear of pain, fear of failure, I would never recover. So I disciplined my mind. Every day I focused on healing. I studied, I planned, I visualized myself returning stronger. And eventually, I did. Not because my body was special, but because my mind refused to give in to fear. Most people train their bodies, but they neglect their minds. That is why they fall apart when fear strikes. But if you train your mind to be strong, nothing can break you. No fear, no obstacle, no doubt. You become unshakable. If you want to overcome fear, do not wait until it comes. Prepare for it. Train your mind every day. Condition yourself to be strong, to be fearless. Because when the moment comes, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. So train yourself to be fearless. 5. Do not be paralyzed by the opinions of others. Many people do not live freely because they are trapped, not by physical chains, but by the opinions of others. They fear judgment, criticism, and rejection, so they silence themselves. They hesitate to follow their dreams because they are afraid of what people might say. But tell me, will these people live your life for you? Will they walk your path? Will they fight your battles? Number. Then why should their opinions hold power over you? The truth is, no matter what you do, people will always have something to say. If you follow your own path, some will admire you, while others will resent you. If you try to please everyone, you will please no one, not even yourself. The moment you allow the opinions of others to dictate your actions, you become their prisoner. And a prisoner cannot be free. To master fear, you must let go of the need for approval. You must be bold enough to live by your own standards, even if others do not understand. Do not let their doubts become your doubts. Do not let their fears become your fears. What matters is not what they think of you, but what you think of yourself. When I first started teaching martial arts in America, I faced resistance from all sides. Traditional martial artists said I was breaking the rules, that I should only teach Chinese students. Some Westerners doubted that a man of my background could teach them anything useful. Others mocked my philosophy, saying I was too small, too different, too unproven. I had a choice. I could listen to them, let their words weaken me, or I could trust myself and keep moving forward. I chose to move forward. I knew my ability. I knew my purpose. So I ignored the noise and I focused on my path. Then came Hollywood. I wanted to bring my own style of martial arts to the big screen, to show the world the beauty and effectiveness of my techniques. But the industry did not want me. They told me that a Chinese man could not be the lead in an American movie. They told me to change my name, to soften my accent, to fit into their mold. Again, I had a choice: conform to what they expected, or stay true to myself. I chose to stay true. I refused to be anyone but Bruce Lee, and because of that, I changed the way the world saw martial arts. I paved the way for future generations, not because I was fearless, but because I refused to let the fears of others become my own. Had I listened to their doubts, had I sought their approval, I would have never accomplished anything. I would have remained in the shadows, waiting for permission to be myself. But I did not wait, and neither should you. You must understand this. Most people who judge you are not truly judging you. They are speaking from their own fears, their own limitations. When they tell you something is impossible, they are really saying they believe it is impossible for themselves. But their limits are not your limits. You must live as if no one is watching. Express yourself honestly, fully, without fear. Be like a flame. Burn bright, and let those who fear the heat step aside. The world will always have critics, doubters, and those who try to hold you back. But their words mean nothing. What matters is that you believe in yourself, that you trust your vision, and that you have the courage to live your life without fear of their judgment. Once you stop seeking approval, once you stop fearing what others think, you will finally be free. 6. Accept death, and you will be free. At the root of all fear is one great fear, the fear of death, the fear of losing, of failing, of rejection. All of these are shadows of the greatest fear of all, the fear that one day everything will end. This fear grips the minds of many, controlling them like a puppet master. It makes people hesitate, it makes them play small, and it keeps them from truly living. But let me ask you, what is death? Is it an enemy? Or is it simply a natural part of life, as inevitable as the rising and setting of the sun? The moment you accept that one day you will die, you gain something powerful: freedom. Because a man who accepts death has nothing to fear. He no longer hesitates, he no longer holds back, because he understands that time is the most precious thing he has. He does not waste it in fear. He does not live cautiously, as if he will live forever. He acts, he moves, he loves, he creates. He becomes unstoppable. To conquer fear, you must make peace with the one thing no man can escape, his own mortality. Once you do, fear loses its grip, and you will live more fully than you ever thought possible. I have always known that my time on this earth is limited. When I was young, I watched people live as if they would be here forever, delaying their dreams, waiting for the right time. But I never believed in waiting. I believed in moving, in acting, in living every day with purpose. When I was training, I pushed my body to the limit because I knew there was no guarantee of tomorrow. I did not hesitate. I did not hold back. I did not let fear stop me from achieving my vision. That is how I became great, not because I was fearless, but because I did not let fear keep me from living. There was a time when I was challenged to a fight that could have had serious consequences. I knew there was a risk. I knew I could get hurt. But I also knew that if I let fear stop me, I would never truly be free. So I stepped forward without hesitation, because I had already made peace with risk, with pain, with even the possibility of death. And because of that, I fought without fear. I won not just with skill, but with the power of an unshaken mind. The greatest warriors in history did not fear death. They accepted it. They knew that fearing death does not stop it from coming. It only stops you from living. One day, I was asked, "Bruce, are you afraid of dying?" I smiled and said, "No. I am afraid of not living." Most people live in fear, not realizing that their greatest loss is not death. It is an unlived life. They postpone their dreams, thinking they have time. But time waits for no one. If you knew you only had 1 year left, 1 month, 1 week, how would you live? Would you still hesitate? Would you still be afraid? Or would you finally act, finally love, finally take risks, finally be bold? This is the truth. You do have limited time. Maybe years, maybe months, maybe weeks. No one knows how much time they have. But if you truly understand this, you will stop wasting time in fear. You will move with urgency, with intensity, with passion. Do not let fear of death stop you from living. Make peace with it, and you will be free. Because the moment you accept death, life truly begins. 7. Be fully present. Fear cannot exist in the now. Fear lives in the past and the future. It does not exist in the present moment. Think about it. When you are afraid, what are you really afraid of? You are afraid of something that might happen, something that has not yet occurred. You are afraid of failure before you have even tried. You are afraid of rejection before you have even spoken. You are afraid of pain before you have even felt it. But the present moment is different. In the now, there is no fear. There is only action, only movement, only life. When you train yourself to stay fully present, fear loses its power. You are not thinking about what could go wrong, nor are you dwelling on past mistakes. You are simply here, moving, breathing, living. The key to conquering fear is to stop living in the what-ifs of the future or the regrets of the past. You must train your mind to exist fully in this moment, because in the now, you are free. I remember one of my students once hesitated in the middle of a fight. He stopped moving, stuck in his thoughts, frozen by fear. After the match, he came to me and asked, "Sifu, what should I do when I feel afraid during a fight?" I looked at him and said, "Do not think. Feel." He was confused. So I explained. When you think too much, you hesitate. You wonder if you should strike or block, if you should move left or right. But by the time you decide, the moment is already gone. Your opponent has already moved. You have already lost. Instead of thinking, simply react, simply move, simply be. The next time he fought, I told him to breathe, to clear his mind, and to stop trying to control everything. And what happened? He fought freely, without hesitation, without fear. He was no longer trapped in his thoughts. He was present. And because of that, he was unstoppable. I have seen this in every part of life. People are so trapped in their own minds, in their fears and worries, that they never truly live. They are always thinking about what they should have done, about what might happen, about things they cannot control. But what if you let go? What if you focused only on the step in front of you, the breath you are taking right now? I trained myself to do this. Every time I performed a kick or a punch, I was fully present. I was not thinking about the next move, nor was I questioning the last one. I was simply in this moment. That is why I was fast. That is why I was precise. Because I was not wasting my energy in fear. I was fully here. I applied this to everything. When I acted, I did not fear how people would judge me. When I spoke, I did not worry about how my words would be received. When I lived, I did not waste time in regret or doubt. I simply lived. This is what you must do. When you are eating, eat. When you are training, train. When you are speaking, speak. Do not let your mind be distracted by things that do not matter. Do not let fear steal your time. The moment you train yourself to be present, fear has no place to exist. You cannot fear the future if you are not thinking about it. You cannot regret the past if you are not living in it. The only thing that exists is now, and in the now, you are powerful. Too many people wait for the perfect moment to take action. They wait for the right time to start their journey, to follow their dream, to take that risk. But they do not realize the perfect moment is now. There is no other time. If you wait, you will only find more reasons to hesitate, more excuses to hold back. A warrior does not wait for the battle to begin before he prepares his mind. A fighter does not wait for the perfect opening, he creates it. In life, you must be the same. Stop waiting. Stop delaying. Step forward and act. The present moment is all you have. And in this moment, you have everything you need. If you can master this, if you can live fully in the present, then fear will never control you again. Fear is powerless against a mind that is awake, alert, and engaged in now. So I tell you, let go of the past. Stop fearing the future. Live here, in this breath, in this step, in this moment, because when you do, you will finally be free. 8. Fear is not the enemy. It is the teacher. Most people think fear is something to run from, something to avoid at all costs. They believe fear is the enemy, something that must be eliminated before they can move forward in life. But this is a mistake. Fear is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. Fear is a signal. It tells you where you are weak, where you need to grow, where you have not yet developed strength. It is a mirror reflecting back the parts of yourself you are afraid to face. If you are scared to speak in front of people, it means you need to build confidence. If you fear taking risks, it means you need to learn courage. If you are afraid of failure, it means you must redefine success. The problem is not fear itself. The problem is how you respond to it. Most people see fear and turn away, avoiding what makes them uncomfortable. But a warrior does the opposite. He moves toward his fear. He looks it in the eye and asks, "What are you here to teach me?" Instead of running from fear, he learns from it, and because of that, he grows stronger every day. I learned this lesson early in my life. When I was a young fighter in Hong Kong, I thought strength came from physical power alone. I believed that if I trained hard enough, I would become invincible. But then, one day, I faced an opponent who was faster, stronger, and more experienced than me. As I stood in front of him, I felt something creeping into my mind. Doubt. My heart pounded, my body tensed. I began to second-guess myself. What if I lose? What if I am not good enough? At that moment, I realized something. This fear was not my opponent's doing. It was my own mind attacking me. But instead of running from it, I faced it. I asked myself, why am I afraid? I realized I was afraid because I had not trained enough for this kind of opponent. My fear was showing me my weakness. It was not there to stop me. It was there to teach me. From that moment on, I no longer saw fear as an obstacle. I saw it as a guide. Whenever I felt fear, I asked myself, what is this trying to teach me? And then I trained harder. I learned new techniques. I strengthened my weaknesses. And every time I did, fear had less and less power over me. Fear is like a wise master. It does not appear to punish you. It appears to push you. It shows you where you need to improve. And if you listen, if you learn, you will become stronger than you ever imagined. But too many people let fear stop them before they ever get the chance to learn. They avoid challenges. They stay in their comfort zones, and they never grow. They let fear control their lives instead of using it to their advantage. This is what separates those who succeed from those who fail. The ones who succeed do not wait for fear to disappear before they act. They act despite fear, and in doing so, they make fear their ally. Think of the great warriors, the great leaders, the great artists, and the great thinkers of history. Do you think they never felt fear? Of course they did. The difference is, they did not let fear dictate their choices. Instead, they let it show them where to focus, where to improve, where to push themselves. I have always believed that a man's character is not measured by how fearless he appears, but by how he responds to fear. Does he cower, or does he step forward? Does he hide, or does he learn? This is how you must live. The next time you feel fear, whether it is fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown, do not turn away. Look at it closely. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? And then act, train, improve, move forward. Because once you start using fear as a teacher instead of an enemy, you will never be stopped again. Fear will no longer control you. You will control it. And when you control fear, you control your destiny. Fear is an illusion. It can only control you if you believe it is real. But once you see through it, you are free. Be fearless, not because you do not feel fear, but because you do not let fear stop you. Now go, live, act, move. Do not let the illusion hold you back. The only limits are the ones you refuse to break.